On a certain day, if you were in Wandul in the farming region and you were paying attention, you might have seen a stone yacht. And if you were looking closely, you might have seen at the aft of the ship spirals and intricate sigils carved into the stone. And if you were there at the right time, you would have seen liquid darkness fill up those spirals, crackling with an energy. And you would have seen that ship lift off in the way that stone doesn't and send itself off into the stars. But only if you were paying attention. Hello, and welcome to Sphere Hoppers. I am your host and storyteller, Royce Rosewood, and we are getting into it today. We've got our crew, we've got our ship, and we're going to be heading between the spheres, between the skies, as we said. So, some bookkeeping things before we head off. The crew has had a chance to reflect, and in Troika that means getting better, so they have improved some of their skills. Suvara improved jousting and sword fighting, Dragogg improved astrolabe fighting, Zamzes improved negotiation, and Cam improved their spell of wizard spears. Cam also spent time with the spell scrolls that they collected from the crypt and learned Rain of Hail and Ultra Transform. In addition, the items that Browdana picked up in the Stygian library, I've given to Dragogg. She handed over the box of addictive chocolates and the ink that was invisible to authorities. Great, so I've been thinking about this ship that we generated last time, the Prosperous Performance that's made of carved stone, and I described it a little bit in the intro. I was thinking now it's more of a, like a yacht, like a pleasure yacht, and Kristnan, can prepare meals and do his cooking, and, maybe hosted like VIP guests on this yacht and, would take it out between the spheres. The carvings at the aft of the ship are where the darkness, the liquid darkness fills in, and that's what moves the ship. So we've got 4 cargo bays and 1 weapon slot. I rolled up that we have 2 units of darkness fuel all ready to go. So that's taking up 2 slots of cargo. Suvara's horse, Janshi, is taking up another cargo slot because, a horse is large. And she's also going to be sleeping in that cargo bay with the horse. And then we have 5 quarters, 1 for Kristnan, 1 for Dragogg, and 1 for Cam and Zamzes, the other 2 being open. I also have a list of all the crew here, and I decided that they have jobs. So Kristnan is the pilot and the chef, Dragogg is the navigator, Suvara the quartermaster, Zamzes is the gunner. If they get into combat, I hope not. That would be really bad. But Cam is going to be the signaler and the lookout, and Janshi is the horse. So I'm thinking, before they headed out, they were deciding, where they were going to go, what they were going to do. They asked Kristnan, oh, should we go investigate this Crystal King? And Kristnan said, well, no, I am not ready for that. Let's do some other things first. I've got to work up to that. That's too scary for me. They are commencing their hunt for the Orbs of Raoria, as they now know that they are called. Now, Dragogg has seen 3 more of them, because they were collected as treasure during the Troika campaign and then handed out to the other 3 members of the party. And that was Pointage, the dwarf, and Goldbone, the apprentice assassin, and Magnaza, the wizard hunter. And so now Dragogg has to go track down what these other characters are up to and have been up to since the end of that campaign and see if they still have their orbs and what's going on with them. Hi friends, at this point, the device that I use to record the table where I do the dice rolls and also the sound cut out. Fortunately, I still get okay sound from the other device. It just sounds a little echoey, but no dice rolls or visuals for the rest of this one, so sorry about that. So what I'm imagining has happened is Dragogg has checked in with Myconet, the wizard, and asked, like, hey, do you know anything about where anybody was going? And Myconet mentioned that Pointage had mentioned a place where he was headed. So that's their lead. They're heading to a particular sphere. Let's roll up a name for that sphere on our sphere name chart. 63, Osh, 83, Swati, Osh Swati. And how many spheres away is it? I'm gonna say it's 1d3 plus 1. Okay, 4 spheres away. Between the Skies has some traveling procedures that I've sort of adapted in my own play of Between the Skies. I found a system that I really like, and that's determining, okay, how far are we going? How many spheres away is there? And then with each sphere, we roll up, here's the things that are going on there, and then in between each sphere, we have a Between the Spheres encounter. And I've got my own tables inspired by some of the encounter procedures in Between the Skies, but adapted to my own needs. The other procedure that I'm going to be doing, and this is adapted from Mythic, you know, when you test to see if you get a interrupt scene or an altered scene, instead of testing the chaos factor and then rolling to see what you get, I've changed that to, I'm going to be rolling a d12, and I'm going to be rolling this giant d12, which I'm calling the Die of Fate. And to, you know, kind of keep the same odds, if we roll 7 or over, so a 50% chance, nothing happens. But if we roll 1 through 6, I have different things that we're going to roll on our tables, and that's when, those are the opportunities for those elements to come in. I'm also just realizing now that I've never really used fuel. I've sort of abstracted that, or piloted ships that don't use fuel. So we're just going to say that each unit of fuel, you know, a cargo's worth of fuel, is going to get us through 2 spheres. I also realized I forgot to roll one thing for our ship. I forgot to roll us a ship quirk, and they're so fun. So this will be something that the crew is discovering right now about the ship. It's D66, 56, livestock. Okay, well that connects already to Suvara has boarded Jianshi in one of the cargo bays, so it's already set up for that. Yeah, there's already stables. And why would there be? Oh, because Krishnan would like get these livestock animals like fresh, right? And then prepare them with their cooking methods. Okay, so they're already set up. Perfect. See, stuff like that just happens. Just perfect stuff. What's happening in this first place Between the Spheres? 5, there's an environmental hazard. All right, I'm gonna roll our Die of Fate to see if anything comes to bear on that. 7, nope. All right, so we're gonna roll on this environmental hazard. There's a disorientation. And the keyword is 66, haunting. All right, so I'm gonna make everybody test luck to see if they are affected by whatever this is, haunting disorientation. So I rolled luck for everybody, even the horse, Jianshi, and the only one who is susceptible to this is Dragogg. So if this is a haunting disorientation, I need to know who or what this ghost is. All right, so I'm going to roll on this entities table to get an idea about this ghost force. 10, an NPC, and then I've got, there's a bunch of NPC tables. We've got powerful, not necessarily powerful, and then weirder. And I'm going to roll on weird, because that's what I like. 64, Ether, 72, Explorer. So this is the ghost of former explorer. I just need a little bit more information. So I'm going to roll on this Spark table. I'm going to roll on the second table and get 64, Vortex. As the ship is pulling away from the sphere of Troika, and they're getting out in between the spheres, in between that ether space or whatever is going on, who knows. Dragogg starts to feel really strange. He starts to like hear voices and beware the vortex, beware the vortex. And he's seeing this face of this explorer and says, I went too far. I went too far. And Dragogg just wakes up in this sweat, and he's gotten this information, and he doesn't know what it is or what to do with it, and he goes around the ship, and everybody else seems to be fine. That's really interesting. I want to save this on one of our threads. So I'm going to write Aether Explorer on the character list, and I'm going to write Beware the Vortex on the threads list. All right, so that was our Between the Spheres thing. And now we're heading into our first sphere. So let's roll up a name for this place. 79. Seren. 98. Zal. Serenzal. Between the Skies has a lot of tables for generating places, and sometimes I roll everything and sometimes I just roll on a few, because the first thing that we need to see is, what kind of world is this? 33. It is a forested swamp. Tells about the flora. 13. Protective flora and the fauna. 24. Artificial fauna. Tells about the local population. 16. Haunted. All right, and then I generally roll up one site of note to be kind of like the landing site. The procedures in Between the Skies suggests rolling like 5 or 6, and I just find that to be way too much when we're going from sphere to sphere. So I just roll 1 for what it's like where they land, and then if we end up spending more time here and exploring, then I roll up some more. And so tell us about what's at the landing site. 34, an outpost. The keyword, 2, glowing, and the detail. All right, and then I'm going to roll up on our Die of Fate to see if anything connects to Serenzal. Nope, not today. So the ship, the Prosperous Performance, comes in. There is, in the midst of this swamp sphere, there's this protective flora. So I'm imagining like trees that kind of have these large leaves that kind of like bend over like shields. And there's artificial fauna, which means, to me, like machine animals. You see sort of machine monkeys or machine tapirs scuttling through. There's this outpost, and I don't know who or what is here. We'll figure out, but in the swamp there are these holes in the ground, and there's this like sort of green glow that comes up from these holes, and in the midst of all this swamp and in these glowing holes, there's this little outpost. I'm going to assume that this is run by some sort of faction. So we're going to roll up a faction. 35. They are geomancers with a secondary interest in prayer and puppets. As they come, there's a little landing site, and there's little mud hovels or little like built structures, but the swamp is like really encroaching in. Someone comes to approach, and they sort of look like a monk. They've got robes, but then coming out of the robes is this little puppet. And the person that comes to greet them does not speak. The puppet is the one who speaks. It says,
"Welcome to Serenzal. We hope you will enjoy your stay."
It noted that the population is haunted, and Dragogg has just had like this ghost experience. So I'm wondering if it's connected. It's so nearby. That seems very likely to me. 73, yes. So Dragogg goes up, introduces himself to this geomancer, someone who does rock magic. He says, "Hello, my name is Dragogg. And who are you?" Let's get a name. 29. Frey. 80. Sha. Frey Sha. And the geomancer says,
"Yes, you may address me as Freysha. Yes, me. Pay no attention to the person behind me."
And Dragogg says, "I don't know if you can help, but on my way here, I had this really strange ghost vision that was telling me to be aware of this vortex, and I'm just wondering if you all know anything about this." And Fresha says,
"Yes, we too have experienced the haunting. We are geomancers. We study the magic of the rocks. We came here to Serenzal to explore the various properties of it. But we dug too deep, And we have unleashed, as you can see from these glowing holes, a haunting, a ghost warning. And we have been praying to our god to help us.
And hearing God, Suvara steps up and says, "Oh, a god. Yes, I would like to do something for this god." All right, so tell me the name of the god of geomancers. 50. Mir, 1 Mira. They take Suvara to their little makeshift temple, their little chapel or whatever, and they go to pray, and they have to give Suvara, she doesn't have her own puppet. They have, spare puppets that she can use. And she goes and puts on the puppet and, kneels down before the altar and says, hello. And Precious says,
"No, you must speak through the puppet, and you must do a voice."
Suvara says, okay. Hello, Mira. And Precious says,
"No, do a ridiculous voice."
Suvara says,
"Oh, oh, Mira, I seek your badge. What must I do to earn your badge?"
what must she do? I can roll on desires. What type of desire? Power. Gain influence for a religious and spiritual desire. Evangelize for a minor religion. Well, that makes sort of sense. Mira starts to form, probably has a puppet form as well, in the chapel, and they see sort of this glowing, mystical puppet. And Mira says, "To earn my badge, you must spread my word. You must perform a puppet show on another sphere." Suvara takes that to heart. We'll add a thread, just so we remember. So in the meantime, they need to figure out more about this haunting. At this point, Christenen chimes in and says, have you tried feeding the ghost? Have you tried talking to the ghost? Frecia says,
No, we have not.
Christenen says, well, I'm a pretty well-known chef. I could cook up a nice meat. Ghosts love meat, and maybe we could lure it out and talk to it. Frecia says,
there are no meat animals on this planet. All of the animals are machine.
Kristen says, ugh, that's going to be trouble. Well, I guess we could do, a vegetable thing. We could do a stir-fry, vegetables with the plants, and see what we could find. Zamzes comes in and chimes in.
Perhaps now is the time to tell you that I snuck a book out of the Stygian library before we left. I thought it looked interesting. It is called Fungi of the Far Realms, and it depicts various mushrooms and fungi that one can find amongst the spheres.
Kristen says, all right, yeah, go see what you can find. Really, it's just, I had this book and I wanted to integrate it. So this is a really awesome book. It's basically just, a mushroom table, except all the mushrooms have like illustrations and like information. I just thought it would be a fun thing to integrate, because we don't have enough going on. 423. So Zamzes goes out into the swamp and finds this. The mighty velvet stalk. Large colonies which consist of densely clumped stems topped with tiny caps. Coloration begins red at the base and fades to blue at the cap. Can be hacked away but is very difficult to eradicate. The stems are either eaten or dried and woven into mats. It says flavor, mouthfeel delicate, good in soup. Smells like stale beer. All right. So Zamzes collects stems of this velvet stalk and brings it back to Christenen, who says,
Yeah, I can make a soup with this. This will be great. This will be great. We'll lure out the ghost and we'll see what it wants.
Christenen roll on cooking. So this particular style of performance cooking, I gave it a name because I kept on thinking of it's like hibachi. It's like hibachi. I wanted to give it a different name, so I rolled up a name earlier, and it's called Hypermoja. Christenen on the ship sets up the kitchen on the deck, and gets these mushrooms and broth and ingredients, and does this performance. It's going to be flying around, cutting up the mushrooms, spinning them, frying them. You know, the fire goes, and he's going to make this soup. He's got a skill of 7, and he's using one of his items, his frying pan. So we'll call it a roll under 8 to see if it's successful in luring out the ghost and figuring out what the ghost wants or needs. 7. Okay, great. Everybody gathers around. You know, and there's lots of these geomancers, and they've all got their puppets, and all the puppets are going, whoa, whoa, that's amazing. Kristen, you know, cuts up these mushrooms and makes the soup. And it smells really good. It smells like, what did they say, stale beer, which doesn't smell very great, but he adds spices to it and makes it. And then as the sun is setting, they, you know, put out the soup near one of these glowing holes to try to lure out the ghost. It works, and the ghost comes out. Well, let's think through what we know. They weren't about a vortex. They were an explorer, delved too deep in digging. If there's a ghost that's been disturbed by digging, I mean, that seems pretty clear that maybe their remains were disturbed. I'm going to test that. Is it that the remains of the body have been disturbed? I'm going to say that's very likely. Okay, 84. No, so it's something else. It's not about that. So then the other thing it could be is talking about a vortex, that they've opened up this vortex that goes, you know, this ghost is now coming through. That's part of the interesting properties of the stones here that the geomancers were investigating, right? And it's because of this ether vortex, this spectral vortex, and that's now been opened, unleashed, and the ghosts are coming through. Ah, thank you for the soup. And he drinks it up. You have opened and disturbed the spectral vortex. In order for me to sleep, you must seal it. This was sealed way long ago, and the artificial animals were set to protect this planet, but this was disturbed when the geomancers came and dug. They must close up these holes for me to sleep again. Dragogg goes to the puppeteering geomancers and says, well, that seems pretty clear. The ghost would like you to, you know, close up these holes. You've disturbed a vortex which is in the center of this sphere, and that's where the ghost is pouring out of. Persia says,
well, we will be disappointed to leave this sphere, these rocks that have such interesting properties, but the message is clear. We will go. We will clear up our mess. We will close up the holes, and we will leave and have to explore another place.
I think we will stop it there. All the wild stuff that we make with Between the Skies and the other resources that we are using. Please stay tuned. Keep watching. Please like, subscribe, and share if you're enjoying this. This is Science Fantasy Awesome, and you